Eat, Sleep, Boxing, Repeat. Delighted to be joined by Greg Doyle. Greg, we've just had some news this afternoon that Chris Eubank Jr. will be fighting Conor Benn later this year. Absolutely massive news. A fight that I don't really know where to start. Obviously, we know the history with the dads. We know they're kind of two different weight classes apart, and they're kind of basically meeting in the middle of those weights. But yeah, it's something to really look forward to. It's something that a lot of people didn't see coming in 2022. We're not going to kind of go on and talk about it for too long. We'll do that at a later date, but just want your initial reaction to this fight being announced.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me again, Elliot. I am absolutely buzzing about this fight. This is what a fight! It's probably the biggest British fight I've looked forward to involving like a British fighter on these shores. It kind of reminds me of Brooke Golovkin a little bit. It's very similar. Someone's coming up from welterweight and someone's a middleweight. I understand that the catch weight is going to be about 156 pounds or so. How does Eubank look coming down to 156? Because he's already tight at 160. Benn, will he take his power up to 156 pounds? I just think, looking at their father's past, looking at the way these two guys' mentality is, I just see this being a war, an absolute war, and I am absolutely delighted.
Yeah, good stuff. Because as we mentioned, I feel like there's so many things I want to ask you about. Well, we're going to do that once we've maybe digested the news a little bit, and we kind of when we're going to discuss it when a couple of weeks out from the fight, we've got more time to think about our thoughts and predictions and things like that. Just going to ask a couple of questions. Do you think it's a wise move for Conor Benn to take? He's been on a great streak at welterweight. He's going up against someone who's been pro for over 10 years, as Chris Eubank Jr., going up against a bigger man, taller man, a man who can Eubank Jr. He's a big puncher as well. Is this a good? I know it's entertainment. I know we're looking forward to it, but is this a good idea?
Really good question, Elliot. It's probably one that I'd ask him because commercially, see, for legacy, it makes total sense. Like, Eubank fought each other, their kids fought each other. They'll probably make an absolute crazy amount of money for the fight. But like you say, there's pros and cons. Does Conor Benn really need to come up and look for that fight when he's in a good position at welterweight? I get, Elliot, a lot of people are saying, no, it's a silly idea. He's already in a good position at 147. But let's be honest here, let's just cut. Conor Benn is good. Boots Ennis, Terence Crawford, Errol Spence. Is Conor Benn realistically going to beat these guys? And the world titles are all held by Spence and Crawford at the moment. And it's looking likely that these guys are going to fight each other. Benn needs to step up and fight guys like Keith Thurman, like Kavliauskas, these fights that are going to be gut checks. But if these guys aren't fighting them, and I can understand why they're not fighting them, because they could possibly beat them, but what's the point? It's more a risk. These guys are all sitting high in these rankings themselves, waiting for these fights. So why not go and make a fight that's probably going to be a once-in-a-lifetime fight that you're never going to get the chance to do again? Because I think Eubank's at the tail end of his career, whereas Conor Benn could come again. So I totally get these people, Elliot, that are saying, what's the need in going up for this fight? But I think when you look at the financial gain, the legacy gains, do you know what? Roll the dice. It's worth it. Go for it. Why not?
Yeah, of course. And the fight, if the fight's there now, the fight might not be there in a year or two. Yeah. Eubank Jr. might move back up to super middleweight. The fight might be more difficult to make in a year or two. I also think that if someone's dad has beaten your dad and got a draw with him, and you've got a chance to fight his son, I'm trying to put myself in that mindset from someone who's not a boxer. I'm trying to do that, and I understand if the opportunity's there and you can, get your revenge for your dad, or however you want to phrase it. I understand why you would want to say yes, and people who aren't Conor Benn might not get that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that's a very good point to make. And do you know what? I don't think it's as I wouldn't say one-sided, but a lot of people were like, Kell Brook is going to get destroyed by Golovkin. And do you know what? Yeah, Golovkin ended up stopping him, but Brook had his moments. I think this fight could be much more even because one guy clearly punches very, very hard. The other isn't a massive puncher, but one is very durable, one is very green. And I don't think Conor Benn's going to have been hit before the way that Eubank will beat him. Will hit him if he gets by 3-4 rounds. So there's so much to go into, and I can't wait till a later date where we do it, because I feel myself, I'm really ready to get into it now, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, absolutely. Final question from me, and as we said at the start of the video, going to keep it short. Chris Eubank Jr. is not a young fighter anymore. By the time this fight takes place, he will be 33 years old. He's got some good names on his resume. Can't deny that. Don't need to go through those. He obviously ended the career of a pastor, James DeGale. Arthur Abraham's another name that springs to mind. Knocked out Avni Yildirim. He's got some decent names on his record. Look, at times looked good against Liam Williams at the start of this year, I thought. But although this is a big fight for him, what do you think of his career? Because it's another fight that doesn't involve fighting for a world title at middleweight, which I feel like he's discussed for a while now. But what are your general thoughts on a career move as a career move for him?
Yeah, I'm going to try and narrow this down, Elliot, because I could go on about Chris Eubank for an hour. I'm a big fan. I think sometimes the fact that people dislike him makes me like him more. I don't know why, but it does. I love his engine. I love his combinations, his guts. But I'm going to be really honest with you, Elliot. It's the most frustrating British career that I've came across. From what he's capable of, if he knuckled down, listened to someone, yeah, I get that he's got Roy Jones now, but if he went about his career a little bit more acutely, I think that he's capable of so much, and was capable of so much. So I'm going to be honest, Elliot, I think he's wasted his career a little bit. I get that he's won the IBO world title at super middleweight, but let's be honest, that's regarded as a bit of a fringe world title. So yeah, I'm personally disappointed, but I've always been a big Chris Eubank fan. I just find him really admirable. His temperament, his punch output, his grit, I just think it's all there to like, which makes it even more frustrating, I suppose.
Yeah, big time. And the thing is, if one of your main objectives of your career isn't to win a world title, that's fair enough. I think that I've heard this past weekend that David Hayes saying that Derek Chisora has never come out and said, I want to win a world title, I want to challenge the world champions. With him, it's just been about big fights and money. Yeah. And if that's the case for Eubank Jr., then this is a good move. But we've heard him say in the past, wants to be world champion, wants to fight Golovkin, wants to fight Canelo for world title belts. And I don't think those fights are ever going to happen, to be honest. All right, cool. I can tell you want to say more, but we will leave it for another day. Yeah, great to react to this fight with you, Greg. Really looking forward to it. We'll be doing lots of content close to the fight night, of course. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. Yeah, just cannot wait. Thanks for joining me, Greg.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.